Everybody say I'm walking in dominion.
Welcome to Ask Pastor Tim with your host, Tim Jones, Kingdom Ambassador, Spiritual Advisor, and Purpose Advocate. We're here to present wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on important topics through conversations that matter. Our goal is to answer your questions about purpose, destiny, relationships, mental and emotional wealth, human potential, and many other important subjects. We invite you to ask a question, share a thought, or suggest a topic for us to address. Follow us at Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And don't forget to kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Ask Pastor Tim on this Tuesday. What is it? April the 23rd. Almost out of this month. Hey. Give you the comfy chair. Let's see, make sure we're on there. Yep, we're on there. And are we on here? Okay. I guess it'll pop up here in a second, but we are on. We on. All right. Hello, and I was about to say good morning. It's been a long day. Been a long but a good day. Welcome again to Ask Pastor Tim. This is our 35th episode, and we are coming to you live from our homemade studio. Oh man, I'm excited about tonight. I'm excited about this time, this season that we are in right now. It's very, very peculiar. It can be things can be scary and exciting at the same time. Yeah, that's the kind of season that we're in right now. It can be scary if you are not aware of what's happening, what's going on, and if you don't have a sense of course, timing, but a sense of destiny, a sense of purpose, a sense of eternity, a sense of who you are, it can be frightening. And man, I can't really imagine what my mindset would be if I didn't know what I know, living in the season that we're in. I don't envy you guys at your age. I don't know. I don't know. I would definitely have to know what I know at your age to not be discouraged about this time and this season that we're in right now. So, yeah. And for those of you who may be skirting with and flirting with disappointment, with hopelessness, and I say it because I know it's there, and I know it's in the atmosphere, it's in the air, it's in the cultural environment that we, in many cases, are okay with living in. Basically presents this kind of atmosphere for us to have to deal with all the time. You know, this atmosphere, because things can be so negative, because things can, things have changed so much. And it's funny, I was sharing with someone the other day, sometimes we're trying so hard to be free that we actually end up in another kind of bondage. And so I think in many ways, the world and many in the world have found themselves in that kind of place, a different kind of bondage. And so it's a very interesting time. Listen, we're going to continue talking about the I am revelation. And I have to continue to talk about it because it's one of those things that people hear and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, or that's nice, or that's Pastor Tim, or that's Mr. Tim, or that's Brother Tim, or whatever you call me, you know, um, and miss the fact that there is something actually happening in the earth. There is a window that's open right now. And so I'm going to keep talking about it because somebody's going to get it, right? And there are some who will take advantage of this open air, this open window, and they will lock into exactly who they are and exactly what they're supposed to be doing in this season. And for those who don't, you'll continue doing what you're doing, but you'll be out of step. And what that means is that when things begin to happen that are designed to derail you, if you're out of step, it's easy for you to be derailed. Can you pull it down? Okay. It's easy to be derailed if you're out of step when certain things start happening. And so it really is imperative in this time to know exactly what it is, who you are, and what you're carrying and what you're supposed to be doing with it. If we are going to do our part to make the world better, to make things better, to make our lives, of course, but those who are coming after us, man, sometimes I'm concerned about the future, not my future, but the future of those who are coming after us. I'm concerned about what you will have to deal with and what the environment, the culture you'll grow up in. I'm concerned about the things that you will have to battle with. And so, yeah, all of that is interesting to me. So we continue this conversation about the I am revelation. And tonight we're going to do that from a different perspective, slightly. What does it mean to? It's easy for me to talk about what it means to a baby boomer or my generation, but what does it mean to a millennial? What does it mean to a Gen X, a Gen Y, a Gen Z? What does it mean to those generations? What impact will this have on their future? We have to talk about that now, because again, if you don't take advantage of it, this window is going to close that we're in. And I'm going to talk more about it, and when it closes, you can't recapture that opportunity. And so it's going to be very important to take advantage of it. I want to invite you to follow us on Instagram, Getting Clear with Tim Jones on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Go to YouTube. That's where all of the Ask Pastor Tim episodes reside. We've got a few things that's going on YouTube. We got 100 days of mental wealth. We're on day 53. Yeah, I think it's day 53. Go over to YouTube, Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe to our channel so that you can be a part of some of the things that we are doing. It will help you. It will bless you. It will absolutely advance your life. It won't be a waste of your time. A lot of times we spend time scrolling and, it's wasting time. No, go over to Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube. It will not be a waste of your time. So yeah, that's that. And I want to jump into this topic here a little bit. You got some good questions?
Questions?
I'll just ask. It's okay. I just ask because I got some. I always have some. So. Yeah, I have questions for all of us. Let me ask you this though. Mm-hmm. When you hear me talk about the I am revelation, and I've explained it in different ways, and I'm going to explain it again tonight. Mm-hmm. What comes to your mind? What comes to your heart? What is your understanding of it at this point thus far?
I did not do my homework, first of all.
Well, I mean, just off the
So,
top of your head, what you got? You know, what does it mean to when I say that?
I mean, just I guess it's kind of like summing up everything that you kind of just said, which is like knowing who you are, what you have to offer, and how it fits. Like having a revelation of who I am, obviously because of the I am, and knowing who you are in Christ. Just really um, a focused, is that the word I want to use? Way of
Good word.
putting it all into one, I guess.
You said something, but you said it kind of fast.
Which part?
I want you to go back and say that part again. The who you are, what you have to offer, and where you fit.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, pretty much just literally that, like, knowing who you are, what you have, and where you fit. I think there's so many things that you can do, and I was talking to somebody today, just even as it concerns career or making money. And right now, you see all kinds of things. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and you can do this and you can do that, and there's just so many different ways you can go, and that's fine. But there has to be bigger, or you can get stuck in like a rut where you're never going to feel like fulfilled. You're never going to tap into, the good works that were predestined before us, like the reason why you're here, why you were created. If you don't tap into that, all of it is like, it's going to ultimately be meaningless. It's going to leave you with some hole, and you may not know where that comes from, but it's because you haven't tapped into why you're actually here, your actual purpose, your actual original design. Like, yeah.
Interesting. You say, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and it's kind of a thing. I even teach that, right? I teach it from this perspective, though. I teach it from the perspective of, first of all, again, knowing who you are and what it is you're carrying. Because once you discover what you're carrying, now you become responsible for it, right? And your responsibility is now to develop it into either a high quality product or service. And then that's what leads you into entrepreneurship.
Sure.
But just the fact of, I want to own my own business, I want to do my own thing, I mean, that's empty.
It's empty. And that's what it seems like a lot of. It's one thing to have pretty much what you just described and know that that's what you're supposed to be doing. I know some really some entrepreneurs are making great impact, and it's very clear that they know who they are, they know what they have to offer, and that's why they're doing it well, and they're excelling. And not to say that somebody who maybe hasn't tapped into that can't excel on the surface. Maybe they will do well in business in that sense, but I don't think, I think many times it's just for the look of it, to say that you own a business, or because right now, this generation and the one under me has a hard time submitting to authorities. So it's just, I don't want nobody to tell me what to do or tell me when I can go to and from work. And it's really just the glamour side of it, like that you don't have to clock in and out. But I mean, you're still going to be working pretty hard if you're working, So I think that those who have tapped into that and they are entrepreneurs, they've tapped into who they are and they're entrepreneurs, that's awesome. But I feel like it's completely fine to have your identity in a corporate America, or in somewhere else that doesn't look like that. But it's really just about knowing where it is that you fit, where your strengths are, because we need all of those things.
And that's the key. We need all of it. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Everyone can't do that. Everyone can't go down that same road, because then we'll have a whole host of needs that are not being met, and that's bad for society. That's bad for that's bad for everyone. No, everyone. My pastor in Tallahassee, his dad was a barber, right? And when I first met him, his dad was a barber. He and his brother owned a flower shop, and the barber shop and the flower shop were kind of all in the same building, right? And so I ended up working down there, delivering flowers, and so I used to talk to Dad a lot, and I was talking to someone in the barber shop I don't know about something, and I made mention that I cut my own hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And boy, he lit into me. He lit into me, and I was like, wow, what did I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about what he was doing was he was saying that there are barbers who this is their livelihood, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you cut your hair, you cut your own hair, that's fine, you know. But he was dealing with it from the standpoint of everybody don't need to cut their own hair. There are people who need to go to the barber because those barbers are they're vital, they're significant, they're important, they're needed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's their livelihood, right? That's what they do. And so if no one needs haircuts, then the barber is useless,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think of my favorite movie, the Matrix, right? Become obsolete,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we can't afford for things that we need for those people who that's what they do, for them to become obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Because then who's going to do that? Then we start running into the thing of the whole AI taking over and that kind of thing, right? Which is it's a wonderful opportunity to really maximize the potential, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to really mess it up, right? And so, man, we got to be really careful. And the way we can do that safely is by making sure we approach everything from the right perspective. I personally believe that purpose levels the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter what you know. None of that matters. Everyone has a purpose, a reason for being here on this planet. And if we all be about doing whatever it is that we came here to do, you know, everybody's going to be happy. Happiness is fleeting. Everyone will be fulfilled. Everyone will live a fulfilled life. Everyone will have a place,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone has somewhere that they fit. That's why I said go back to that, because that's really fundamentally what we're looking for. People are looking for, you know, to know who you are. You have to understand what it is you're carrying.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's a huge part of who you are.
Right.
And then you got to know where does this fit? Am I just carrying something that doesn't even matter? Nobody wants it, nobody cares about it, or am I carrying something that the world needs, that someone in the world needs, that somebody needs? That's vital.
And I think that's the perspective that also is missing, because I think there is a sense of maybe seeing what is glamorized. So like, even if you put it like in a creative setting or even just a church setting, what is seen is the pastor, the worship team, the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that the intercessor is not important? Does that mean that the person who ushers is not important? Does that mean that, you know, those who are quote unquote, you could categorize them as less than if you are if you have the wrong perspective about it.
Yes.
But if you know that every part of the body plays its role and every part is just as important, because I'm not gonna have balance without my big toe, then you're gonna play your part differently.
Absolutely.
So the importance thing, this altered sense of what is important versus what isn't.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that what I have isn't just for me, it's for others. I believe that it will bless us, if not first at some point. But I think that it is when you know that it's for others, and when our perspective is that way,
Mm-hmm.
the fulfillment and the even the sense of importance that everybody's looking for is going to be there.
It's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then so what that does is, you know, I was reminded of this thing yesterday morning. Remember the young lady who the African American young lady who became Miss America
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, and then she ended up committing suicide
Mm-hmm.
like a year or a couple of years later or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came up on my feed when I was checking my email yesterday, And man, that thing just got inside of me because her mother just released a book, right?
Mhm.
That this young lady had started writing before she, committed suicide. She knew she was going to commit suicide, right? And she knew she was going to take her life, right? And she knew she couldn't live with the stuff that she was living with. She calls it pain, right? And I say it that way. I say she calls it pain because that's how it shows up. It shows up as pain, whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, or whether it's all of that, because that's eventually what ends up happening. It becomes all of those things, right?
Right.
But that's how it shows up. But what really is it? Because pain in and of itself, pain is an indicator. Okay. If my toe doesn't hurt, I may never know that something is wrong with it, right? So pain comes to alert us that something is wrong, something is missing, something is needed, something is, so we spend so much time dealing with the pain. We never deal with what's causing the pain. We never really deal with what is this pain telling me, right? And so when I began to think about, let's read the little article that was that I saw on it, and her mother was talking about, some of the days leading up to her committing suicide and how she had sent a text to her mom like that morning or something like that, basically, asking her mom to please make sure that she published, after she was gone, that she published this work. I mean, it's just mad, crazy, sad, and just crazy, right? But and so her mom did. She published the work, and I want to get that book too. It's called the first part of it is called By the Time You See This, or By the Time You Read This, or something like that. And then there's another that's part of the title, yeah. But I want to get it and read it. But just that fact, man, the only thing that can satisfy the soul, right, is fulfillment. In other words, you doing what it is you were created to do.
Right.
Okay. This young lady, for all intents and purposes, she accomplished something that not just only little Black girls dream about. Pretty much every little girl will dream about being Miss America, or being a princess, or being beautiful, or being pretty. That's every little girl's dream. Well, she accomplished it, right? But that meant nothing. It really meant nothing in terms of the weight that she was carrying. And that's crazy. You have to ask yourself, my God, what is this? How heavy can it be? Is it just the fact that something is emotionally or mentally wrong or off? And if that's the case, how do you address that? More so, how do you fix it? I'm going to use the word fix. I'm going to use it. How do you fix it? Right? Because many people think you can't. Right? Or how do you manage it? I oftentimes think about Jim Carrey, right? Jim Carrey is one of my favorite actors, right? This guy, he's got all the letters, ADHD, ADD, he got all of them, right? Can you imagine him as a child? He probably was off the chart. I'd like to talk to his mom and dad, right? But he has found a way to utilize that and still not just become productive, because it's not just about the productivity, but impact other people's lives in his being productive, right? And living, not just living with, what do they call it? A disorder, right? We all live with some kind of disorder. Think about that word. Disorder. If my desk is messy, that's disorder, right? And so we live with levels of disorder. We innately do that, right? So it's not about the disorder. What it's about is the lack of purpose. Because purpose will bring something that is disorganized. It'll make it make sense and bring it into a form or a format where it can be used. right? We were watching. I was watching. So You Think You Can Dance with Your Mom, right? And some of the dancers, it was funny to me, you know, when they're doing their solos, when they're dancing for their life, they be going for it, man, because they don't want to leave, right? And they be throwing themselves on the floor and doing all the stuff. And I thought about it. The first thing that popped in my mind was Jim Carrey in that movie, Liar Liar, right? When he was in the bathroom, just throwing himself up against the wall and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that's what that reminds me of. Anyway, I don't know why I went there, but but that's what that reminded me of. But my point is that this man has, instead of allowing his disorder to disorder his life, he has taken his disorder and made it work for him, you know. And when if you talk to Jim Carrey, I've listened to some of his interviews. You know, he talks about purpose, he talks about God, but he talks about purpose. He doesn't just talk about God. He talks about purpose and God, right? And so that tells me and shows me that he has a level of understanding about this life that we're living, you know. And that's just, without that, the littlest thing can break us down. Yep. It doesn't have to be something big, you know. It can be something very, very small. Mm-hmm. So it's really about that. That's why knowing who you are is so important. So the I am revelation, what is that in the earth right now? Okay. I started saying this, I calculated back to probably 2022 when I started saying that, and because God just put it on my heart one day, and I said, my God, that's the greatest revelations. And I kept being moved to say it. Mm-hmm. And then I found myself saying it in places and in spaces, and then the Lord began to really speak to me about it. And I said, my God, this thing is in the earth. And it just aligns itself with everything scripturally, right? We see the confusion. I can say there's a lot of confusion in the world, and nobody will disagree with me, right? Because it's so apparent, right? The Bible says where sin abounds, grace much more abounds. So that means if there's sin, there's a multiplication of grace that's available. So where you think about, there's always more light than there is darkness. Mm-hmm. Darkness just exists because of the shadows, okay, that come as a result of light reflecting off of something. Okay, otherwise darkness doesn't exist. Darkness can't exist without light, right? And so, and there's always more light than there is darkness. Okay, so if there's a lot of confusion, that means there's more clarity. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. And so when I started thinking about it, I said, God, you're a genius. You're a genius, right? And so it aligns with everything that makes sense scripturally and in the natural now. With all of the confusion there, and God has literally opened a window for people to finally understand, to come into this area, come into this arena, to begin to seek, get on that path of seeking to know, why am I here? What am I carrying? What is this thing in me? What is it about me that makes me important to this time that I'm living in? I say things like that to people. I say, you know, your being here right now is vital, is important. You're important to mankind. Most people don't think they're important to mankind because they don't even look at themselves that way. But what if they did? What if someone who's struggling with anxiety or depression, dealing with a level of pain, what if they looked at themselves, if they saw themselves as being important to society, to culture, to humankind, to mankind? If they saw themselves differently, perhaps what they're dealing with wouldn't have such a stronghold over them.
And there really isn't a way to see yourself differently without having that sense of what it is you're carrying. You're
absolutely right.
Because why else would I be?
Why else? Why else? Right. Yeah. Why else? But even here's the part. even if you don't know what you're carrying yet,
Mhm.
but you've been around people who have constantly built it into you that you're carrying something,
Mhm.
right? Even if you don't know what it is yet, you still have that sense of hope in there,
Yeah.
you know. So and that comes because you have the right kind of community, the right kind of people around you who pour into you, who build you up, right? Who say things to you. They speak words that elevate and lead to health to you instead of words that tear you down, right? That makes a world of a difference. We know that, or we have a knowledge of it, but sometimes we don't always live like we know it. We don't use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't actually live by it. We just know it. But what if we started living by it? You know, what if we actually started scrutinizing every word that comes out of our mouth? What if we actually started, you know, put our thoughts through a filter and made sure, to the best of our knowledge, that there were more positive things going in, right, than there were negative things going in? Because you don't have well, yeah, you can filter some of it, but you can't control it, right? Because you get bombarded with stuff you don't want to hear, you don't want to know, you don't want to see every day, right? But you got to counter that, because if you don't counter that, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where you don't really even believe what you know. You know it, but you don't really believe it. And I can say that because I've been in that place.
Mhm.
I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like, you know. And then and if you're a Christian and you go to church or whatever, it becomes easy to just go to church and do church stuff. But then you're still carrying things and walking around with things in you that are not building and supporting you. You're having thoughts that are not supporting you. They're actually betraying you. You know, I know, because that has happened to me, right? So now back to your generation, right?
Mhm.
Okay. How do you feel that if most of your generation began to embrace this I am revelation, do you think it would shift something, would change something, even in the opportunities that are available, or the kinds of things that happen amongst your peer group, your age group?
I mean, yeah, it would absolutely change things. But what did you mean by opportunities that are available for us?
Because, and it's very interesting, um, as a an age group, a peer group. I'm just going to say peer group, but I'm talking about age group, right?
Mhm.
There are certain things that are available to age groups or peer groups, right? In the physical and in the natural, okay. But it's also true in the spirit.
Mhm.
Levels of understanding,
Okay.
okay. And because we tend to think like our peers, we tend to have the same relative kinds of conversations, or be looking at or pursuing the same kinds of things. I'll give you for instance, right? I noticed this when we were still in Tallahassee, and we were at the church we were at there. Is everybody started getting married in our age group, right? And then so what happens after marriage? Kids. So everybody in our age group started getting kids, right? What happens next? Everybody started getting minivans. It was funny. It's like in that age group, we were all doing the same kinds of things, right? And so it plays out in the natural that way, but it's the same in the spirit. Okay. And it takes someone doing something different or more, or focusing in a certain area, to not be affected by that, to stand out from that. That's what I mean. Does that make sense?
It does. So the question was,
So how does that, would it change, and would it even make what's
Yeah.
available?
It would. Absolutely. I think you find yourself either, if you're like me, you would find yourself in a space trying to figure out how you create those spaces or how you find those other anomalies, I guess, because what you see as
Good
available
word. Yeah.
sometimes is discouraging, whether that is, what it takes to be quote unquote successful, or to, if your thing is social media, what is required, for lack of a better word, to go viral, or if you're in the entrepreneur space, or in what's that, the online selling, e-commerce, or you're looking at the things that are quote unquote required to be successful in that space. If you're looking to be married but you want to do it in a godly way, and you're looking at what is available right now, and how people are thinking amongst your peers, that your age range, who you'd want to marry or who you'd want to do business with or who you're looking at what is available, it can be discouraging. So I think that revelation of who we are, what we have to offer, how it affects, what specific role we're supposed to play in the earth, would affect how each person, I guess, it will affect how everyone shows up in the world. And
that right there.
Yeah.
That right there. How we show up, right? Just, it's funny, me hearing those words come out of your mouth, right? It's like, man, if young people talk that way, right? If that was the conversation, automatically it would open certain doors and shut others. Do you know that we open doors with our conversation and close doors with our conversation? Yeah. That's why, certain people I can't really engage in much conversation with, because the doors are closed. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, it's like, it's draining for me. And I don't want to feel like, or make it seem like I feel like I'm better than anyone. That's not it. But I don't want to go into a conversation and this conversation it's just bondage, right? Why would I want to enter into that conversation unless I'm going to be elevating it up?
Right.
And so it really does. There are gates in life. And so we have to learn how to understand things in the natural and in the spiritual. And you don't have to be deep to understand things in the spiritual. You just have to pay attention and connect dots, connect things, put things together, right? Just like we get up every day, every morning, and we have habitually begin to do certain things. Okay, we live our lives as creatures of habit. Right? Part of that is ignoring things, or maybe I'll use another word, but that's the one that works. Not paying attention to. I'll use that. Okay. Still ignoring, but not paying attention to things that matter the most, right? And if you create a habit of not paying attention to things that matter the most, then that becomes your MO. That's how you live your life. Even without consciously doing it, you're subconsciously doing it. And that happens a lot. Something as simple as, right, when you walk out every day and the sun is shining, and you don't really pay attention to the fact that it's shining because it shines every day. So you don't, unless something hits you, you don't just look up at the sun and say, wow, thank you, sun, or thank you, God, for letting the sun shine today, right? It's a very little thing, but it's a profound understanding that's attached to that little thing. The understanding is that the sun didn't have to shine today. God could have made it so that it didn't, right? But it did shine because of the goodness of God. You start connecting things, right? And now, so the natural phenomena of the sun shining every day is more than just something that happens every day. It has a deeper understanding. It has a deeper meaning in you because of your deeper level of understanding. Does that make sense?
It does.
And that's the kind of stuff. You don't have to be a deep person to do that. It's just being aware and paying attention and connecting things together in life, not being superficial and not being so caught up into the things that are happening and what people are doing and, you know, the latest fads and social media and this and that, you know, that stuff is fleeting. Mm-hmm. And it don't mean nothing when it comes, because when we have to deal with some real issues, when we have to really deal with persecution on another level, none of that stuff will matter. It don't matter now, but it definitely won't matter then. Won't get you nowhere, you know. So the pool of Siloam, right? Actually, it was Bethesda, that pool at Bethesda, where certain time of the year, an angel would come from heaven and stir the waters. They said, trouble the waters, right? And during that season, I don't know how long it would last, right? But during that season, everyone who stepped into the pool would be healed, right? Okay. That's what the I am revelation is like now. It's like God has stirred something in the atmosphere, and everyone who begins to pursue, who steps into this thing, you're going to know exactly who you are. You're going to know exactly why you're here. You're going to know exactly what you're carrying. You're going to know exactly what you're supposed to do. Your life, if things in your life will become clearer to you if you step into this moment, right? So that's the opportunity, you see? And so it's like the things that you want, the things that we want, sometimes we're so busy pursuing the thing that we want, we fail to realize that there's something else that's attached to that if you just get this, you don't automatically have that, you know, the wax on, wax off effect, you know. We fail to, you know, to realize that, especially in the world we live in, the instant microwave world we live in, you know, we want things now and, you know. So
I really don't believe to seek first the kingdom and all other things will be added. We don't really believe it.
We don't really believe it.
Because of the microwave. But we don't want to do that first. Yeah. How long is it going to take for me to see all the other things?
Give me a time frame. Give me a time frame, you know. Show me a time frame. And that brings this part, right? If we as human beings, okay, in the earth, we're finite. We have a definite beginning and a definite ending in the earth. But that's the bodies that we have. It's not who we are. We are spirit beings. We were alive before we got this body. Right? So we were alive before we got this body, and we'll still be alive when this body fails. Right? We just won't be alive here on the earth because it's illegal for us to be here without this body. So we have to go on to somewhere else, but we still exist. Yet, man tends to restrict, that's not the word I wanted to use, but it's going to have to work right now, his understanding of who he is to this realm, this finite realm. Right? And not only does he restrict it to that, or confine it to that, he measures and judges himself by what's happening here on earth. It's all finite. Right? Who we are is greater than that. So if you want to really begin to understand who you are, you kind of got to seek to understand who you were before you got here.
Yeah, Francis Chan, it makes me think of this example Francis Chan would do in I don't know if it's that specific message, but I'm pretty sure he would do it in multiple messages. But it was a message where it was like a super long rope. And at the very end is like a piece of red tape. And that's our life. And that's what we're defining everything off of. And that's what we're, you know, spending so much time worried about when we should be worried about eternity. And, you know, realistically, it can be hard to wrap our minds around it because our minds are finite. And we do have taste, touch, feel, and smell. And what's the other one? Sight. All of our senses that make this seem more real. And so if you're not tapped into the spiritual, even if you are, it can be hard. So if you're not, it's virtually impossible to think of anything else besides what you're experiencing here. So.
It can get very, very hard. And because we deal with everything horizontally, we miss opportunities to really begin to tap into the vertical, you know, and that's where understanding is in the vertical. It's not in the horizontal, you know. And so just little things like, and that is a little shift. It's not an easy shift, but it's a little one, right? It's not complicated. It's not hard to understand. It may be challenging to do. And the only reason it's challenging to do is because of the habits that we've created.
Right.
You know, when we create new habits, that becomes second nature, because it really is second nature. You know, we just haven't treated it like it's second nature. But there again is the opportunity, you know. So with all of the stuff going on, I hope that you can look at things in such a way that you can see that there's more of what you do want, of what is good, of what we're after, than there is of the stuff that's not. You've got to have eyes to see that. Otherwise, you're living in a danger zone, right? All it takes is the right stone thrown. Yeah, all it takes is the right stone thrown at you at the right time, and you'll crumble. No, we have to be unbreakable. We have to be unbreakable. Oh, how do you be unbreakable? Oh, yes, you have to be unbreakable. But you can only be unbreakable here. You got to be here, right? And then everything else will follow that.
Right.
So we have to begin to get our thought life, you know, together. And that's what Jesus's conversation with Nicodemus. I want to encourage you. Somebody on here. I want to encourage you. If you have read it, go back and read it again. If you haven't read it, go read it. Jesus's conversation with Nicodemus, John the 3rd chapter. That thing's been feeding me for 20-something years. It just keeps feeding me, right? That conversation was so pregnant because Jesus speaks directly to what's missing. Right? He goes right there. Nicodemus is trying to figure out, man, you know, we know you got to come from God, because nobody can do the stuff that you're doing unless they came from God. It's pretty obvious to me, but something's missing. I'm not connecting the dots. It's not happening for me. And Jesus goes right in on him, bro. Your mind is here. If you want to understand what I'm doing, you got to raise your mind. You've got to be born from above. Yeah. In other words, your understanding has to come vertical. You're looking for a horizontal understanding, but what you're asking me for is a vertical one. But you're still trying to process this vertical horizontally. Doesn't work. You've got to renew, reimagine how you see things, how you process things, how you accept things. That has to be reimagined. If 2020 did not teach us that, because that was a part of the lesson, I'm convinced that it was supposed to teach us to reimagine, to reset us. Some things reset and other things didn't. Some people reset and others didn't. But the need is still there, right? And so the world is going on from the reset forward. And then you have people who are trying to go back to the way things were. And it's just not going to be. We are different. We are in a different time. We are in a different season. We ourselves are different. Now, what are you going to do about that? Or rather, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to adjust? You know, how are you going, you know, okay, so that plan was pre-reset. Now I need a post-reset plan. You see? Because the world is different. So that's what this I Am revelation is about, man. And, you know, in terms of what it's going to mean to millennials, Gen Y and Z and X and all the ones that they're going to call after that, what it's going to mean is going to be, it's going to be the, how can I say, it's going to be the maker or the breaker of what you're able to accomplish, what you're able to do in the earth. And when I say what you're able to do, the impact you're able to make, because it's one thing for me to make an impact, but it's another thing for my generation to make an impact. That's a whole nother ball game. That's a whole nother ball game. You said a little bit ago, you said something about your generation in the earth, the importance of your generation in earth. See, who thinks like that? Who thinks about the importance of their generation in the earth and how they fit into that? What young people are thinking about that? They're not thinking about that. But the opportunity here is to think about that, is to think like that. And if you start thinking like that, it shifts and changes things, right? The only reason Walmart exists is because we keep going there and we keep buying, right? If we stop going, okay, they can't sell me something unless I buy it. Yeah. You know, so think about the power that really puts in your hands. And you go, well, if I don't go buy it from Walmart, I won't have it. Okay. If that's your mentality, then I guess you're trapped. Okay. But this world was surviving before Walmart. Right? So just the perspectives, the perspectives being different. Let's see how we doing on time. Man, we doing good on time. We're coming to the top of the hour. How do I want to say this? Because I want to make sure when I talk about the impact for the generations to come, every generation is supposed to impact the world in a certain way. Okay. And every generation chooses how they are going to impact the world. There are generations that choose to impact the world with rebellion or resistance. And not saying that that's always a bad thing, because when you have to stand in a place of resistance when something that's not right continues to go from one generation to the other. Somebody's got to stand in resistance. So, but you got to know when it's time to, if you are a generation of resistance, or if you are a generation of connection, or if you are a generation of advancement, you got to know which generation you are. Do you know young people that have those kinds of conversations?
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Because you got to know that. You got to know that. And you can't know that without understanding the plight of the generation before you and the one behind you. The connection has to be there, because we're all responsible, regardless of what generation you're in. If you're in the earth, we're all responsible for the earth and everything that's happening in the earth. Right? Yeah. So what can I do? And then what can we do? Right? And what can the world, those are the kinds of questions that if nobody asks them, if no conversations are being had around those central things, how are we going to make this world better? Are we going to make it so that everybody can do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it, however they want to do it? Do we really think that that's going to work? Because when you open the door, you open certain doors, any and everything can come through the door. Right. And you can't control what comes through the door because you opened the door. Right? And so we really have to have those kinds of conversations, and we got to be able to come to, and I say we're going out. Those who are right at the beginning and right in the middle, who are going to be the ones who are going to be, making the decisions 10, 20, 30 years from now. These are the kind of conversations that you need to have. How are you going to make this world better? Are you going to make it better? Or are you going to let it go to hell in a handbasket, as they say, Because if you do, it was on your watch, what are we going to do? So, yeah. Any questions you want to ask me about that before we?
I don't think so.
I'm going to be talking more about Dominion Code as we move into the next couple of months or so.
Okay.
And I hope to do an event on my birthday. I want to do an event on my birthday. Oh, we talk about that because, a part of understanding who you are is understanding the resources and the tools that God has given us to understand. Okay. And so this whole thing, I've been dealing with this thing, Dominion Code, for you. I don't know, maybe 15 years. It has to be at least that long. And now it's time now to release it, especially after what has happened to me over the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. I understand it now. And I believe that there is a dominion. I know that there is a dominion code for everyone. And it's simply just the how do I say that? I want to say it the way I said it, because I have to say it a lot so that I can. Where'd you go? I'm going to say exactly what the dominion code is. Did I put you in here? I thought I did put it in there. Huh? Search it. I don't remember what it was titled because it was part of something else.
If you remember a phrase from it.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. And it gives me the same ones. That's okay. But what it is the resources of your potential. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's how God uses them, okay, to bring you to a place of clarity and to a place where you walk into and step into who you're designed to be. You can't stumble upon it, because even if you did, how would you know that you stumbled upon it, right? So you have to know what to look for in order to be able to really understand your purpose. So Dominion Code helps to give you what to look for. Mm-hmm. It helps you to understand how to see your gifts, your talent, and your abilities, and how to connect them with other parts of yourself. You know what that is? How it all connects, because it all connects and it's all relevant. And so Dominion Code is how it uniquely connects for you. I discovered that over the past couple of years, how it uniquely, because I've had my hands on several things, and God would give me something and he'd give me something else. And I just keep pursuing what God has given me, not even recognizing the connections between the things. And then he brought me full circle and showed me how not only did they all connect, but how they were all really one. Oh my God. And he showed it to me as a code, it was really like an acronym, but the acronym worked because everything was strategic in its place and how it came together. I wish I had time to share that tonight, but you have to actually, I can tell you, but you have to see me diagram it to understand it. But that's what Dominion Code is about. Wouldn't you like to know how it is that you can absolutely be on point with your original design, be perfectly aligned with your original design? That's what Dominion Code is about. So we'll talk more about that. Thank you all for joining. and we're gonna do something live. We've been planning it, and we're gonna continue to plan it to do something live so that we can do this on another level, and so that we can actually have the kind of impact and interaction with all of those who are following us and who are listening that we'd like to have. So keep your ears peeled back for that. We'll be talking about it in the next couple of weeks or so. Thank you again for joining us. Send this recording to someone who you know it will be beneficial to. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you have not joined 100 Days of Mental Wealth, go over to Getting Clear with Tim Jones on YouTube and go ahead and subscribe to that channel, and you'll get a notification. Make sure you hit the bell and turn on your notifications so that you'll know every time we release another day of mental wealth. It doesn't cost anything, but man, it sure would help us out, and it will help you out. It would not be a waste of your time, I promise you. All right, so we're at the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and close out here. Thank you again for joining, and I want to encourage you to, as always, live full so that you can die empty. Make sure that you are finished when you finish. All right, good night, everybody.